Great. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining the webinar today. So it's very exciting for all of us at Omnos because we are about to release the new and improved Omnos system and platform. A lot to be looking forward to. So I haven't seen it myself, so I'm really excited, and we have Sue with us today. So Sue Camp, who's joining us all the way from South Africa. And we've also got Christian. We've got Christian Thomson with us as well, who is our head of product and who will take us through what's new on Omnos. Okay, so it's all about health education to make better informed choices with the Omnos Academy. Quick introduction. I'm Tika, and I am the Growth Marketing Director at Omnos. I will be hosting tonight's webinar, and along with me is Sue Camp, a functional medicine practitioner. So I will let Sue introduce herself.
Thanks, Tika, and hi everybody. It's a real pleasure to be on an Omnos webinar. It's a very exciting project. So I'm a nutritional therapist. I then completed my functional medicine training, and I've been working with Omnos for a year or so now, working with their tests and their platform, and just watching the growth and development of what they're offering. And it's an incredibly exciting project. So thank you for the invitation to join you, and thanks for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And of course, the most important person, Christian Thomson.
Maybe just for this call, but yeah.
Yeah, could you introduce yourself to everyone?
So my name is Christian Thomson. Some of you may have heard me speak before. I know me from other places, but I've been working with Omnos on this project for quite a while now. And I took on the role of their head of product to come and build this particular platform that I'm about to demonstrate. So this is the 2.0 version of Omnos, and it's been over a year in the making, and we're very excited and happy to build it. For those of you who don't know me a little bit about my background, I was actually a former world champion kickboxer, and I've been sort of studying and working in the industry for 15 years, including multiple degrees and in sort of health, biology, wellness, and I specialize in blood analysis particularly. But yeah, I think what we're going to present to you today is going to show you how we can integrate much of your health data into one space and get the most out of it.
Great. So that was a very brief introduction. I'm pretty sure we could even say more if we wanted to, but
no need to tell my life story. I mean, there's videos of it somewhere else.
yeah, of you kickboxing.
Okay. Yeah.
So what's new with Omnos? Before we get into what's new, probably some of the people that joined us tonight aren't that familiar yet with Omnos itself. So Omnos, as we know it today, since we launched about a year and a half ago officially, is an intelligent health system. So we've got everything in one place, from at-home health tests, all the different ranges of at-home health tests, self-assessment questionnaires, personalized dashboard to view your results, and also get personalized recommendations. And we also have supplements on our website. So that's in a nutshell. There's other videos that we have on YouTube where you could actually go through Omnos from end to end. But today, sorry, don't know why I went back. Apologies for that. So today we're looking into the Omnos 2.0 version, this spring 2022 release. And I asked Christian if you had three things that you would want to highlight about the new release, what would those 3 things be? So he mentioned the first thing is complete data integration. So as you know, we have worked really hard to connect the dots. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's 3,000 data points altogether or more?
It's around 1,500 unique pieces of data, but then the number of connections we're still actually working out. There's so many that actually go, but it's definitely well within the thousands. It's probably above 5,000 individual unique connections. But we haven't finished actually calculating that yet. We spent too much time building it. We haven't technically took a step back and counted everything so far, but over 1,500 unique data points, pieces of information that we take into account, and well into the thousands in terms of unique interrelated connections.
That's amazing. And the second thing is personalized prioritization. So we know that we've got the personalized dashboard. Everything is personalized, but now it's taking the next step to making personalized prioritization. Can you elaborate on that a little bit, Christian?
Yeah, I mean, when we take so many pieces of data into account, even if it's just one questionnaire and one test, there's still quite a bit of data and information to sift through and to understand. And when we start comparing all those things and contrasting all those things against each other to try and get a better understanding of what's happening in reality for that individual, it can end up throwing up quite a lot of options in terms of what we can do. So what we've developed is a sort of prioritized system that will allow us to see which things fall at the top of that pile, as in what things are most important to actually start actioning first. So we'll have a priority set 1, a priority set 2, priority set 3 in terms of how to tackle whatever health problems you're currently experiencing.
Great, and we'll see all that in the demo shortly, obviously. And the third thing is simplified information, making the complex simple, as Thomas likes to say it. Yeah, so do you want to explain a little bit about that as well?
So with that, what we've tried to do is, and we're always working on this side of things, we've tried to do it before, we're trying to do it now, we're always going to be trying to do it in the future, and that's trying to make this complex set of data and information understandable at both the individual level and the combinational level that we're presenting it at. So whether that's making it easier to look at via certain color coding schemes or certain visual imagery like certain status bars and things like that. So working on that design element to make that sort of information easily digestible just by a quick glance, as well as giving proper and simplified explanations within what something means, why we're testing it, why it's important, what we might need to look out for in relation to it. So people can see and understand from their point of view in a more concise and single space to come find out.
So basically, if you're not a scientist or a doctor or not into medicine, you'll be able to understand all the explanations.
We do our best to make sure that everyone can understand the information that's put in front of them. Of course, there's a finite thing we can do to keep it accurate, but we try to make sure it's 100% accurate while being completely understandable to the average reader.
Yeah, it's very helpful for people like me. Just FYI, I've got no medical background or health background whatsoever. Great. So now live demo, I guess we're all waiting for this. This is the first time I'm going to see it. I guess this is the first time Sue is also going to see it. I wish we could sort of have like a drum roll kind of.
You can do one, but you've got to do while I bring it up, but just on your computer.
Yeah, go ahead if you want to start sharing your screen.
Yeah, right. This one should be the right screen. Let me know when you can see my screen, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah,
so, right now I'm signed in as a dummy account that has a number of different tests that's already loaded up onto the account. So this is the first view of the dashboard. So a fairly simple view. We can view which tests you have ready to go from here. There's a nice little menu status shortcut from here as well, which we'll go through in a little bit. We straight away get to see the wellness score, which we'll come back to explaining a little bit more about that after we've been through some other things. We can see questionnaires that we can start to fill out, place a space to go and buy tests if you need them, and a space for recommendations here. So the first thing we're going to start with is trying to get to grips with understanding your symptomology. So we're on the new platform. We have put everything into one symptom questionnaire. So before, the previous symptoms were a little bit more based around lifestyle, and we are going to bring that lifestyle questionnaire back in the future. But for now, it's particularly going to be based around symptoms in the MVP version of 2.0. So the reason why is because symptoms do shape a lot about how we experience life, and when we cross-analyze those symptoms along with what's actually being shown in our objective results, that cross-analysis can really narrow down what's actually happening in our body. So you'll just go in, and the first thing you'll do is you'll either buy a test or you'll fill out the symptom questionnaire, or both. And you'll go into the symptom questionnaire like so, click in, and then we'll start to bring up questions like this, which will just be simply looking at the frequency that you experience certain symptoms. If you never experienced them, if you experience them within specific frequencies given, just like so. And it's just a tick box exercise, and you go through. There is quite a few questions, but it only takes about 20 minutes to fill out. Okay, and once you've got that, it will straight away start to give you some recommendations and some scores as well. But not so. This is how we originally would start to go into our health understanding, and that symptom analysis itself can start to recommend the best sort of tests to go forwards with as well. So that can be quite useful in helping you start your journey. When you do have tests, you can look at those tests individually from straight from that test in its isolated format. So we can go to that test, we can look at all the individual biomarkers that are shown within that test. So we can see here some sort of status bars, so we can see what the sort of optimal ranges are outside the standard ranges, and the sort of outside the standard ranges are. We can see where you fit within those. We can go a little bit further into those and see what some explanations are for those and in interpretations in something. You see some of the content isn't filled in yet because this is still the beta version, but the content is done. It's just not into this version yet. And we can see certain related results as well that come that are connected to this data point. So we can go straight away, click through into biometabolism, biliary tract flow, cellular uptake of zinc, and see how this data point may be interacting with those particular results as well. When we also have on the test, what we also have is the results themselves. So for example, we're looking at biometabolism. We could have clicked through straight into this. And we can see when we click on that, we can see again the descriptions about it. The related biomarkers should be, yep, my computer's not scrolling down for me. So related biomarkers that are involved with this test. And here as well, you can see there's some genes that start popping up because this account has done a genes test. There are specific genes that may act as multipliers in terms of they may increase the risk factor for that result, or they may decrease the risk factor for the result. So there's a very important concept to be understood around genes, which is genes is a great test, but it's mainly to talk about what kind of risk factors you have within your health. It doesn't functionally measure what's going on at the time. So it's really useful to cross-analyze symptoms, genes, and functional tests like blood markers or urine hormone panels and things like this to see what's actually going on with your health and what you're at most risk from.
That's great. So basically, if you've done all of the tests, all of the related biomarkers from all the tests are going to be populated there where you just showed us.
Yeah, no, completely. So, and we can swing by a number of different tests. So This is another blood test here, so not the best option here, but we've got the hormones urine panel here. So again, you can quick flip between and see where you are within any of these sort of biomarkers or result states related to those individual tests. And so we can look at things through that siloed panel still, if that's what you really want to see.
Yeah.
But the more interesting point and the real power of the system comes actually by looking at things through from the wellness score in itself. So we had the wellness score before, and previously we had things siloed into separate tests, just like we just saw there, and you would have a test that related to an aspect of wellness, and then all of that would be added together to wellness. Now what we have is something a lot more integrated. So wellness is considered to be part of three major sectors, as it were. Health, risk, and performance. Now, risk and performance will be coming later on. The first thing we're working on, the first thing we're launching at the moment is our health score. And this is to do with your symptoms and your test data. The risk and performance will be, risk will be more lifestyle orientated and genetic orientated, and performance will be more physical fitness orientated, but they'll come later down. So when we get into the health sector, we have the sectors that create it, which is body, mind, environment, and food. And we can click into those, for example, and we can see what subsectors are making up those scores. So this will start to give you this sort of narrowing down into the specific areas. And we rank these subsectors specifically for their importance based on you, the individual. So just because something has the lowest score doesn't always mean it's going to be the highest thing. So you can see here, for example, female sex hormones is at 35 and blood glucose is at 36. Blood glucose is higher, okay? The lower the score, the worse in this case. You know, we're still working on whether we're going to invert it or not, but that's nonetheless. So blood glucose is higher because a lot of the time blood glucose regulation will have larger impacts on female sex hormones. Now, it's not always the case, but in many cases, we're going to see this sort of hierarchy play out. So it's important that we're able to rank these and start to look at them from the angle of which one should we probably tackle first? Which one is going to have the biggest impact on the next one down, for example? So then so for example, on this case, it's pathogenic status. So we can click through into that, look at what's going on. So we can say, right, pathogenic status is abnormal, and we can start to see why and what needs to be done about this, particularly. Okay, so related biomarkers, do we have that ready yet? No, not yet. But what we can do is we can see here, we start to see how those things are being highlighted that are most important to tackle first straight away. So
Christian, can you just explain the hierarchy? Would that be the same for everybody, given those particular body systems? What are the other influences in the way that you've structured that, for example?
Yeah, so there's lots of things that will influence it. Predominantly, it's the combination between the symptoms and the objective test you do. So if you did a blood test and you did your symptom analysis, how those ranking systems will work will be entirely dependent on the questions and data points that have been given back by that information.
So it's completely personalized.
Yes. So each time, though, we have a set of rules that will dictate the ranking to a large degree, but very much the ranking would personalize into what you've answered.
Great.
Yeah. So from here, for example, another thing that we get to see when we start entering it from this view is something called a completeness score. So what we can see is how many data points or how many biomarkers have we tested in relation to this either subsector or in relation to the actual biomarker or the result itself. So we can say, right, well, this is 91% complete. We tested 91% of the biomarkers related to blood glucose regulation. So we can be fairly confident in that score. Again, we can look at things through the biomarker lens, and we can see the biomarkers that are related to this. There's quite a few genes related here. Or we can, again, look at it through the results lens, and we can say, right, well, vitamin B1 doesn't look like it's a particular need for B1 at the moment, but we can still see here what is being related to it. So we can see the related biomarkers, what's been tested. We can see the symptoms that you've clicked that you are experiencing, and we can see the other potential symptoms that you haven't clicked on experiencing just yet as well. So we can, and again, click into some of these, see a bit more about them as we go through. So each step, we should be able to interrogate the information a little bit more and have those explanations all along the way that you need in order to understand them a bit better. So let's try and find, not sure where it was before, no, okay, right. So once we've gone through that, there's a lot of information that we've potentially just viewed and witnessed. So to really bring it all together and try to help you understand exactly what the first steps will be in the process, we've brought it down to recommendations, priority sections. So again, like I said before here, so we have that ranking in those different sectors where we can go, right, this is the most important thing in this sector versus that sector versus that sector. But what's actually the most important thing overall? Where do I start? Where do I go next? Where do I go next? So how we've done that is we've created a recommendations section where we can view things via which is the top priority for you. So again, pathogenic status, which is very likely, is one of the hard, fast rules we will have in systems like this, is something, if you're suffering from a pathogenic status, hey, that needs to be dealt with first before you deal with anything else. And we'll always have recommendations like see a specialist. In this case, there was something to do with the gut. So we're seeing a microbiome specialist. Pathogenic status can be heavy metals technically as well, even though it's technically not pathogen, but it's just pathogenic status more. But anyway, we can see things to do, things to avoid, and often things to take as well. So supplementation here. So this particular case must have been gut yeast because it's a antifungal nutrient there. And we can also see foods that are being recommended to seek and avoid. In this case here, it's just avoid. We can also then click through to priority set 2. And we can see the similar set of things. Now, another thing that's quite important here that we've done is if a recommendation is recommended in multiple sectors, it'll only be shown in the top priority sector. So as you go through these recommendations, you'll never see duplicate recommendations. So you'll only ever see what's most important in this place that it should be. Okay, and if it will help something below, then you're doing it already so we don't need to show you it again. So that helps us really cut down on the amount of noise that you might see from recommendations like this as well.
It just makes it less overwhelming, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely. Eventually we'll have a little bit more information about how important these things are, like how many times they've been recommended over how many different subsectors, for example. But for now, we just have them in the sectors that they're in the highest sector that they're recommended.
So the more tests you take, then the more personalized prioritization would be.
Yeah, so and you may find sometimes this, so you may find 1 and 2 only have a couple of things that you need to do, and then you might find something in priority sector 3 actually has quite a lot of things that are being recommended, and then you look at the supplements and there's quite a few things. So sometimes there are going to be more. This is particularly because vitamin status is one of those statuses where if you have multiple vitamin insufficiencies, then there's going to be quite a lot of recommendations to go around it because you need to top up all those different nutrients. And we can see here vitamin D, B12, carnitine, B2, B5, CoQ10. So straight away you can list off quite a few things, right? Well, you need more of all of these things. So the more tests you do, the more dialed in you can get, but it doesn't always mean you get splattered with so much more recommendations. And the really powerful thing about what we've done here is the symptom questionnaire is re-editable. So once you fill it in your first time, you get your results back, but then you can go back in and say a month, 2 months, 3 months later and fill it out again. So as your symptoms change and evolve with your health, as you're making these efforts and you're following the recommendations that you've been given, your symptoms change, you update the symptom questionnaire, and therefore your results will also alter too. And therefore, when the results alter, so will the recommendations. So the recommendations will adapt as you grow in your health. which is one of the most, I think, powerful things about this new tool.
Christian, can you just go back to the recommendations? And next to the supplements was the food list. And I guess one of the founding principles of functional medicine is food first, exactly. So if you go down to priority 3, maybe, what did that show us in terms of the food list? There we go. So it gives us an indication of, yes, we've got a whole bunch of nutrients that we want to take, and that can be overwhelming. And then maybe dialing into some of this food list. So these are some of the things that I can add to my diet, which may be a little less overwhelming and an easier thing to do on a day-to-day basis in terms of, okay, these are changes I'm going to make to my health.
Yep, completely. So like the idea is we have tried to be as detailed as we can with the food list, because we don't want to, like, it's like not saying that you have to eat mackerel, pastured lamb and sardines, you know. It's saying, right, here are three foods that are probably going to be beneficial for you. Hey, do you like any of them? Why don't you add them to your shopping list? So it's like it's not a mandate. It's a general piece of advice saying, hey, these pieces of food or these items of food have nutrients in them that are going to be beneficial to you. So why not eat more of them? Because that's probably going to be good. You know, so again, you know, we're not taking the space of a practitioner, but what we are doing is giving the users more authority, more knowledge, and more control over their data, and make it more possible for them to actually have intelligent conversations with any practitioner they do engage with in terms of making these efforts. And I mean, I have my own private practice. I built this specifically to streamline any work I ever have to do, you know, because Sue, as I'm sure as you would agree, you know, no matter how much we read, no matter how much we eventually consume in knowledge and understand, we forget stuff just like anyone else. So, you know, having this automated process where, you know, these things are just put in front of us. Hey, do you remember this? Do you remember that thing you read once, like 5 years ago? Yeah, that's also connects to this. Oh, do you remember this actually has this in it? Or, you know, so basically it's a streamlined process for practitioners, and it gives back control and ownership of data to the users, which is a very important aspect of what Omnos is trying to do.
So as a user, if you wanted to share your results on the Omnos dashboard, well, on your own Omnos dashboard, and you want to share it with a practitioner or a GP, is there a way to link them to the platform?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways you can share your data with other outside counsel. Now, the simplest way is to download the raw data files from the labs and pass them on as PDFs. And you're more than welcome to do that. But if you want someone to see your results on the platform, the interpreted results, your practitioners can join, and they can they can set their own account and they can connect with you. So once you give them permission to see results, they can see your results through their own platform. So you don't need to share your username or password or anything, so they can go and log in and look at it. You can literally say, hey, I give X person permission to see my results. And as long as they're a qualified practitioner, they will get a practitioner account, which will allow them that access. And then once they do that, they can look through it and then talk to you about your results as if they were looking at your profile themselves.
Yeah, I guess this will be useful if you're like going through perimenopause and you have to go to your GP and stuff, and you've got all your blood test result and everything when it comes to HRT and whatnot.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, that's a good point. Let's just go test results. I think it was, there's a thyroid one here, which is probably simpler just to go through. But yeah, like you can go, oh, right, so, this is where my thyroid antibodies are. And you can see what the ranges are and the information about them. Same thing for cholesterol. You can see where, you know, oh, I'm just outside the optimal range. I'm still within the standard range. You know, you can start to understand a little bit more about where you are and what it means to be there. Okay, and then you can have more stronger conversations with be it a GP, or whether it be a functional medicine practitioner or a personal trainer or a nutritionist or whoever else that you're having a conversation about your health with. You can talk to them about that and see what's going on. Much clearer. All right. I started seeing some questions coming through.
Yeah, there was a question from, about, so if someone's already done all of the Omnos tests and they have it on the existing platform, and once we launch the 2.0, what happens with all of that data?
Yeah, so if you're an existing user, all of your old data will be uploaded into the new platform. So the new platform will deal with old data just as it deals with new data. Something we're not doing just yet is doing change over time. So we won't be able to make a comparison between the snapshot A and snapshot B in regards to, say, 1st of June to 1st of July, for example. That will happen, but it won't be happening for another, let's say, 4 to 8 weeks, I reckon, before we'll actually get that live after the launch of this. So, but it's definitely in the process. We've built most of the back end side of things to make that work. It's just something that's coming up in the future in terms of change over time. But any old data will be historically stored and therefore used in combination with any new data you put into the system. The only thing that you probably have to redo as an existing user is the questionnaires, because the questionnaires are fresh and new. But then these questionnaires, again, like I said, they'll be editable and they actually have a lot more impact on your results than the previous questionnaires did.
So Christian, just for the users who are listening, that the starting point is the questionnaire, and from the questionnaire, there are recommendations from that, just from a data set of symptoms. Is that correct?
Yes. So where we can, we make recommendations on whatever data set it is we have. So not every single symptom or every single question that's related to a symptom will have a recommendation attached to it. But there will be specific symptoms that are very classical, and therefore we're able to give full-blown recommendations against. And we will do that where we can. So as soon as you fill out the questionnaire, it's highly likely you're going to have recommendations, and it's guaranteed that you're going to have some form of test recommendation.
Yeah, exactly. Once you've got the test results, then you start building the data points, and then those recommendations become more robust given the data results. And so you can start to build depth of information.
Yeah, exactly. And every test will give you a new set of information that will then alter the previous set. So if you did a wellness advanced test, and then 3 months later you do another wellness advanced test, you'll see those changes. But you might do a wellness advanced test and go, right, well, actually, it seems like I need to do a microbiome test. So you do a microbiome test, and then that might shape the results into a more unique pathway that's actually more relevant to you. So as you add on to those tests, you should see those results change and dial into what you need to work on. And as you improve what you need to work on, you should see that element change and see the recommendations and symptoms pushing you into different directions.
Given those data points and the way that the system's set up, is there a base set of tests that you might recommend to, Mr. Joe Public coming to the Omnus platform for the first time? Would you suggest that people start with a genetic profile, or do they start with a wellness advanced blood profile? Are there kind of foundational tests that may be a good place to start?
I always recommend the first test to start with is symptoms, because once we have the symptoms, we can then start to actually decide on what is the best route forwards. Now, if we want to talk about, if we still don't know after the symptoms, which is incredibly rare, it hasn't happened to me so far in my professional career. So I don't know if that's possible, but I mean, sure, everything's possible, right? But if that, then for me, the best general purpose test that we've got is the Wellness Complete, because it looks at probably the most broad aspect of health. But then again, like you fill out a questionnaire and you're having specific digestive issues, then yeah, there's certain blood tests that are going to be good for that. But then if it's other digestive issues, then it's going to be microbiome. If we're seeing lots of things popping up in the hormones spaces, then we're going to be looking at either sex hormones blood or hormones urine, so on and so forth. So it's realistically looking at what's actually happening in your life and how that translates into objective measurements, basically.
But I thought that, you know, taking a genetics test would also help to sort of see what you're predisposed to. So therefore, like what's at risk.
Completely, and that's a huge help in many places. And again, I would say it depends on why you started the journey, right? If you're starting the journey because you've got a specific functional health problem that's going on right now, right this second, then I think some of the more functional tests are likely going to be the winners. But if you're starting this journey because you're like, I want to know more about myself, everyone finds themselves interesting, right? Or at least that's what we're banking on, hey? But if you're like, I want to know more about myself, I want to make sure I live long, live strong, grow old gracefully, all those sorts of things. And you go, right, well, what am I at most risk of? Then starting at places like the genes and then working your way through is probably a good idea. So it depends where you're entering the journey from and why.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like with symptoms, you don't really feel like you feel like you're quite healthy. So you feel like you don't really need to take the test and all that stuff. But I guess the first time I took the blood test and I realized, all the things that were actually going wrong without me realizing all the different symptoms as a symptom.
Yeah, well, completely. So, and what everyone is sort of guilty of these days is, my bathroom schedule is not really what is healthy. Oh, it's fine. Or like, oh, this thing, or it's like saying, oh, my hand hurts every other day. Oh, yeah, that's fine. It's normal. It's not normal. It's not healthy. Your hand's not meant to hurt every other day. It's like, oh, my knee hurts every other day. Oh, like, or they're physical ailments. But you're saying, oh, I only use the toilet once every other day. And like going, well, that's not healthy. That's not good. That's not normal. But we normalize those things because they happen so regularly, and we're able to get on with our life. Like, oh, well, it doesn't matter then. I'm okay. I'm not hospitalized. That's not. And this is the other thing we have a conversation with a lot of people as well. There's a very big gap between being healthy and needing emergency medical attention, or even needing a doctor or a GP's input. There's this big gap that goes there, and the whole point of doing this sort of thing is to catch people in that gap and turn them back around towards health before they get to a point where they need, in our case, the NHS's help and resources. So this is very important for general society, let alone any individual's benefit.
Yeah, well, I guess
the continuum of health and disease, right?
Yeah.
Seems like Omnus is really good to sort of stop people from making assumptions about their health, because sometimes it's just easy to sort of like, oh, I feel this, I assume that it's this.
Everyone taking supplements because they just saw the latest person talking about it online, going, oh yeah, this is great, you should do this. Or they go, oh, if you have this one symptom, you must be suffering from that one thing. It's like, oh, I'd love if it was that simple, but I'd also be out of a job probably. But unfortunately, it's not that simple. But that's what we're trying to do with the system, is make that complexity into a streamlined process where we can simplify it and say, hey, actually, these are the 3 supplements that you just need to take. But those 3 supplements won't be the same 3 supplements as the next person needs to take, or the next person, or the next person. So trying to highly personalize without having to have someone like me, who may be expensive for someone to actually engage with from scratch like this, and say, hey, let's go and investigate this. Let's spend hundreds or maybe even thousands of pounds on tests, and then you spend hundreds and thousands of pounds or thousands of pounds on man hours in terms of investigation, just to get to a point of saying, oh, hey, just do these few simple things. Well, a lot of that information can be automated. And then when the more complex cases do come about, where we need people like myself and Sue to really intervene and really actually interrogate this a bit more, the process is so much more streamlined that we don't have to spend half the amount of time we would have had to before. So
yeah, absolutely.
it means we can help more people, and people can help themselves with more ease.
Yeah, on that
empowering.
note, with I guess one thing to tell everyone is that with every Omnos test, there's actually a 15-minute complimentary results review with one of the experts, just to go through the results. And if people actually need more information or more explanation from an expert, that's also available. You know, with people like you, Christian, and Sue as well. That's there to help all of the Omnus enjoyers.
Community. Yeah, absolutely.
There's another question I've just seen that's up here as well, and it was, will the system be smart enough to update if you retest a product again after, say, 6 months? Yeah, I think we've probably answered that so far as we're going, but just to clarify, yes, once we see, so if you do one test and then you redo that test in 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, though everything will be updated, and therefore all of the information will change, as long as your test results have changed, of course. If the test results are the same, then there won't be much change. If the test results have got worse, then they will change to 1 degree, and if the test results have got better, they'll change to another degree. So, and also your symptoms might have changed. So are you updating both sets of information, or are you updating just one set? Maybe you do a different test this time, and that different test will also update the results in a very similar way. So no matter how long it is, whether it be a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, it's not to do with the time length, it's to do with if the data is different. You know? And once we update the data into a correct context, it will update to whatever you need in the personal situation.
Great. So I'm just conscious of time, and if that was really great, Christian. Thank you for taking us through the whole new Omnos platform. Very insightful. Just if anybody has any questions and would, you know, like to just type your questions in for either Christian or even for Sue, please, you know, go ahead and we'll try and answer them. Yeah, in the meantime, Sue, what do you think as a practitioner? Do you think that this is something that's going to really help your patients, clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, the message to practitioners is that the system, it's about working with the practitioners and not instead of the practitioners. And, you know, you saw from the recommendations and the food lists and the supplements, it provides the practitioners with an incredible range and depth of information, but it allows us to work with our clients in a more informed way to then work with them around, okay, what are our priorities and how can we change our diet? And yes, it tells me that I like mackerel, but I don't like mackerel. So what are the other oily fish that we can do, because I know I need those nutrients, etc. So it's an incredibly informative platform, but is in no way replacing the practitioner. It's empowering the patient and just gives us something else to work with. So, you know, I think it's very exciting, and I've worked with a number of clients who do this, and it's also about downloading those results and, you know, using our own further information to help patients understand the nuances of the test. But the platform themselves just gives them a simplified understanding and explanation of where they're at, which they may not get from their GPs or medical teams due to lack of time or focus or, you know, expertise. So I think it's very exciting.
Yeah. So I can't wait to actually use it and move all my data to the new one and give the recommendations.
You know, it's not long to wait now. Just a few more weeks before we have our official launch, and a few lucky people might get to try it out a little bit sooner than that. But yeah.
So one more question's come in, Christian, about can the recommendations be downloaded or easily printed off?
Not yet, but well, I guess you can easily print them off because you can always do screen print. You know, if you've got a printer, for example, but there's not downloadable PDFs for the recommendations at this stage. We are looking to do, that's probably going to be something that will happen sooner rather than later, but we are also potentially looking to create PDF downloads for the results themselves as well. But yeah, for now, they are just directly on the system. The only things you can download as PDF are the raw data that comes. So if you get a blood test, the raw blood analysis from the lab, you can download that and share that with a GP, for example, very easily right now. But the recommendations themselves, they are on the system. But you can, the system is a web app based portal, so it's very mobile friendly, very fast on the phone. So it's very easy to access anywhere you are all the time. You don't have to be on a desktop all the time to access it.
Great. And then a couple of other questions. Did you see those, guys? About risk scoring. What is the risk scoring going to do, and when will that come?
Risk scoring is going to be the next sort of set of the scores out of the risk and performance that will come through. Now, the risk scoring will take a lifestyle questionnaire, hereditary risk questionnaire, and your genetics all into account and create a general profile of risk for you. Now, what's going to be really cool about when we get both the risk and the performance in and the change over time, so change over time will happen first, risk will happen second, performance happen after that, is we'll be able to see all those things together and how they affect each other. So if you can imagine a timeline set out where your health is up here and your risk is down here, but then you start to maybe, you change your lifestyle questionnaire because you're not behaving so well right now, you're not eating so well, you're not having the best lifestyle, and the risk of your risk based on your lifestyle goes right up to the top or close to the top, and we start to see your performance and health scores will drop and become worse, because that's exactly what happens. So we'll be able to see that trajectory over time of how your risk, health, and performance undulate against each other, and how they'll affect each other directly. So that'll be quite interesting to actually see in real life.
And what else is in the pipeline then? I mean, it's so exciting. It seems like every time there's always something new. What else are you working on, Christian?
A million different things. I tell you that. There's more things in my head than I can probably do in my lifetime, I think. But we'll give it a good go. But you know, like I said, the next big things are like your change over time, the risk and the performance. But then after that, for the practitioner side of things, for example, we are looking to do a proper client management profile. So where we see those recommendations coming up, you can have your practitioner just hide and add specific recommendations based on your profile, based on the things they're taking into account, places where they can store other PDFs, and do a proper client management portal for the practitioners. And that will help obviously both the users engage with practitioners in a more streamlined process and approach, and it will also streamline the practitioner's ability to help those patients, therefore giving them the ability to help more people. So that is something that's very close to my heart, and I'm really excited to build as soon as I possibly can. We're looking to potentially integrate wearable data into this as well, so we can see how things are changing on a day-to-day basis rather than just test-to-test basis. You know, that's also another big thing. We're looking to make many different sort of functional changes, adding a number of different tests modalities to the platform. Some of the tests, like the Envirotox and the microbiome, they're quite large tests and they're expensive for that reason. So we're looking at ways to split those tests up into smaller units, because sometimes you don't need to do the larger test, you only need to do the smaller aspect. We're looking to add, particularly
for retesting, if you just want to retest a couple of markers, that can be really helpful.
And with the blood test, for example, we're also looking to bring in marker specific testing. So once you have got those results, you go, right, well, my ALT was through the roof, which is a liver enzyme. And we go, right, well, I just want to retest that marker because I think I've done enough now to change it, rather than doing a whole test again. So we're looking to bring that back into place. Now, of course, the cost per marker is going to be a lot more expensive when you do it in smaller batches like that, you know, and that's just the way of the world. I mean, because especially if you're getting a venous draw each time, if you're doing it by the finger prick test, it's not so bad. But you know, depending on how you collect the sample, what the sample is, you know, what the biomarker is, that'll all depend on what the prices actually end up being. But nonetheless, we can still do those hyper-specific and personalized retesting elements once we start getting those in. And a big reason why we can do that is because of how we've built 2.0 in this very modular aspect where everything's interrelated and everything is its own unique piece of information. So that in itself has opened up this capacity for us to do all these weird and wonderful things with the data moving forwards.
Talking about retesting, a question's popped up about how frequently should we redo the questionnaire? What would you recommend on that?
Yeah, so yeah, my general advice for questionnaires is every 12 weeks or 3 months.
Okay.
Now, there's also times where some of the symptoms may have much more acute effects. So you may be able to do it within 4 weeks or 8 weeks, you know, and see what. But then the reason why I say 12 weeks is because if it's gone for 12 weeks, you know, or if it's gone for at least 8 weeks, for example, you're a lot more sure that it's gone rather than, oh, I've just made a change for a week. Oh, and that's made it better for a little while. And then you go back to doing the same old thing again and it's come back. You haven't really made any difference, any change. So it's actually a false positive at that point. So because a lot of the times the symptoms are there because of the habits. And, you know, if you down a liter of Coke every day, you know, and then and that creates a symptom, until you stop doing that for a long enough period of time for your body to recover from that and the symptom to actually disappear, then we can say it's gone. And then we can say it's actually affected your score. So 3 months normally gives you enough time for those sort of processes and to have occurred and those habits to have changed. That's why I generally say 3 months.
Great. That's helpful. Amazing.
Great. Well, I guess that's all the time we have for today.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I've got my, if you hear something barking in the background. It's that time of the day already. But I really wanted to thank you, Christian, for presenting all that. And then thank you, Sue, for joining us as well tonight. And and we'll be sharing the recording of this webinar to everybody here, just in case you wanted to watch it again. So thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. And if you have any questions, you know, you could always email us, support@omnos.me. Go check out the website and sign up. So when we're live, you'll find out when it's available for you to try. So that's it.
So
thanks, Tika.
Thank you everyone for joining and listening in.
Great.
Yeah, and thanks, Christian, for all your brain power and pulling this all together and the team behind you. It's incredible to be part of and to watch.
Yes, well,
take care. See you soon.
Bye, everyone.
All the best, guys. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.